there's so much fear, there's so much wrong information. I'm personally struggling with understanding where I can find a true information or correct information because there's so much out there.
Hello, and welcome to the Nurse Rosa's Insights podcast. I'm your host, Rosa, and today I am joined by Dr. Irina Koyfman. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me, Rosa.
So, Irina, you are a nursing leader with loads of experience, but I don't know how because you were also so young and you have children and you have so much energy. I really admire you. And then you're even about to publish a book, right?
Correct. And I like to say that my biggest strength and possibly my biggest weakness is that I like so much. I'm very difficult to kind of pinpoint of like what I'm really good at because I love like everything that's new that's coming. I just love to jump in, learn, share. And so I'm one of those people that almost like, jack of all trades, but masters of none, although I think I am a master of some of them, but I've never stayed in something long enough to become this, super duper specialist because new things are coming. So again, it's one of those, I think amazing nursing is such a great profession where you can just go from, one to another to a third and to the fourth and really learn as much as you can, or you can stay in one and become super micro specialist in something. So I am in a lot of things and anything from I worked in operating rooms and ICUs and home health, and I also owned multiple healthcare businesses because I was young and very naive nurse when somebody approached me and they said, "Hey, I'm a business person. You're a nurse. Let's open a healthcare business." And I was like, "Well, why not? Let's do it." And there was a school of its own in terms of leadership and business and everything. And after multiple successful businesses, I actually went to work for corporate America. So I did the opposite. Usually people stay at corporate for a while, gain experience, money, and then they open business. So mine was vice versa, and then,
Yes.
different degrees. And my latest, of course, is, my love is right now with in AI because it's everywhere. And I just feel like as nurses, we have very little information, education, and preparation. Yet we are the end users of everything AI related in healthcare because who spends the most amount of time with the patient? Nurses, and then also with
Mhm.
the data. So that's that. And I'm also writing a book. So yes, I am. It's hard to pinpoint what I do, um, but I just love a lot of things.
Well, I definitely relate to that. And I know quite a few people who identify as multi passionate people. And that's
Love that.
definitely us. Yeah, because I go from being a foodie influencer, I have 4 different podcasts, and I have, my family. And to me, everything is connected and it's all like blends into one another and it's all interrelated and organic in my mind. But it's like I have to select based on who I'm talking to, which part to share with people so before they get
Yeah.
overwhelmed. So,
Yeah.
I definitely hear what you're saying, and it makes me feel more normal to talk to people like you who are also trying lots of different new things. So, obviously, you're an early adopter, and I love that you're excited about AI and how nurses can be involved in creating tools with it to improve healthcare and improve our work as nurses. Um, are you going to the AI Med conference in San Diego?
Yeah, so I was supposed to go overseas to another conference and
Mhm.
it didn't happen at the last minute. So that's why I said no to Dr. Chan, but I'm still I'm still kind of like I have maybe a few more minutes to decide if I can still make it, but
Oh,
it
okay.
it wasn't in the cards. But again, I think that universe works in a very mysterious way, and
Yeah.
sometimes certain things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
So I will let you know probably by Friday if I'm
Okay.
going. But I am taking, I obviously took his class and
Yeah.
um taking a in December. I take the advanced board certification class. I think it's an amazing
Wow.
organization, and I did talk to him, and I know that he's now contact with you and Stephen Ferreira. But
Mhm.
I told him that we need to bring more nurses because it was only about 5% who were nurses in
Oh,
my
yes.
cohort.
Mhm.
And yes, it's board certification AI in medicine. I get it, but like in nursing, we don't have anything yet. Again, as I said,
Well,
nurses are like everywhere. So
except Stephen Ferreira has made something. Did you see that?
I'm very excited, and I want to talk to him.
Mhm.
But also, I Dane and I met about a month ago, and we both. Mhm. And Susan said, Irina, we need more nurses at at the table. And I said, Susan, we need more nurses in the room before they get to the table. And what I've learned is, obviously being a nurse for so long, I have so many friends who are, leaders and managers at the hospitals. And one of my friends texted me, literally, director of a big group in one of the hospitals. And she's like, Irene, I'm sitting here in the meeting, and we just evaluated 18 AI vendors that came in with whatever offering. And she said, I'm sitting in the room, I'm a body. She's very smart, but she's like, I don't know anything about AI. I don't even know what questions to ask. And, but then everybody who were in that room are gonna vote, and majority, usually wins. And I also met a person today who is in our government in Maryland, and he said he used to work for like a large hospital system. And he said, I
Mhm.
will never forget, we were all in the room and we were evaluating two EMR vendors, no names. And the CEO looked at COO and he said, can we operationalize it? And COO said, yep. He looked at CFO, he said, can we afford it? CFO said, yes. Then he looked at compliance officer and he said, is everything legal and kosher? They said, yes. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And then he was like, oh, wait, forget, hold on. Let me ask CMO, chief medical officer. He turned to him and he said, can we do it? So even the chief medical officer was the last person who had something to say about an EMR in a healthcare system.
Right?
And, in nurses, if we don't have the knowledge, we're definitely not going to have a power to speak our minds. And there's so much with AI in terms of evaluating for bias, evaluating. I mean, there's so much. And again, like if nurses are not aware, they're not educated, they'll never feel comfortable talking or asking the right questions. So,
Ex
Susan and I developed this, group, Nurses for AI, and we have over 1,000 nurses like within a month because, nurses are hungry to learn, they want to understand. We are smart people, we love science, and we like technology, and we work with technology. Yet for some reason, we're one of the last ones to ever be, thinking about how to bring that to education. So again, I'm so happy that so many nurses jump on the ship and passionate about bringing nurses into AI. And, I'm one of those too. So hopefully we'll all start collaborating more. I think that in this space, I'm all about, not competition, but collaboration. And we all need to work together because we're working for the better of every nurse out there.
Exactly. And we can't bring our profession up if we're tearing each other down because, I mean, I think there are a lot of systems at play that are dependent on us keeping ourselves down by keeping each other down.
Yeah.
So I think that is our strategy. It has to be to lift each other up in the interest of all of us. So, now your book that you have coming out has nothing to do with AI, does it? It's something about the sandwich generation. What is
It
that?
is. It is. And just to be fair, I will have one chapter on AI only
You
because
will?
I will, because it's here and it's moving so fast. And I think if I can teach people on how to utilize it,
Mhm,
everybody's going to be better at it. But Sango generation, funny story. I was vice president of clinical services at a large healthcare insurance company, a leading team of 300 clinicians, 7 programs, so pretty busy. Um, Also, my children at that time was a high schooler and middle schooler, and my father became, I've started noticing cognitive decline. So this is kind of in the beginning where, he's still
Mhm.
driving, but now it's like, oh my gosh, now I need to kind of get in to understand what's happening and help them, whatever, whatever. My father-in-law becomes very sick. We're talking about person who was taking bus to go to library to use free internet to passing away within 7 months. So this was
Oh,
again, dementia. And it's one of the worst,
wow.
I think, diseases that anybody can have with high education, because dementia, the people, the more educated people are, and he had PhD, the better they are at masking the dementia. So
Yes.
we did not know until it was too late. So I'm in a meeting. My job was so demanding that I had, every half an hour I had meeting and nonstop. And I was talking to a colleague about how, I have to pick my child and go deliver a letter to my mom, whatever, whatever. And she said, "Oh, you're a perfect sandwich generation." And as you can hear, I have an accent, so English second language. I was like, "Sandwich generation, what does it mean? Come again." And she explained to me the concept, which is you're kind of sandwich in between two generations where your children are still young enough. And believe it or not, sometimes they could even be in college, but maybe they're still financially, you're financially helping them, which means you still, doing a lot. You don't necessarily have to schlep them, from practice or school. But then your parents on the other end of the equation are now sick enough that they need your help. So you're taking care of two generations. And timing, Rosa, is everything, because it usually happens to people in middle age, where mine kind of began at maybe 40, like ten years ago, when a lot of us are like at the epitome of our careers, because now we've been working for 15, 20, 25 years. We are on the top of the career kind of, or, at the very top, which means you're working a lot, you're very busy, you're successful, and you're burning basically from, both ends.
Yes.
And so I always, that that phrase and that concept stayed with me for so long. And after so many of my family members, including my grandmother, who passed away few days before she turned 100, and God bless her, she was in hospice for 18 months. So, with hospice, you have to get recertified every 6 months. So they
Yeah.
recertified her 3 times. Then they discharged her, and then she passed away. So,
Oh my goodness.
but she
They
was just
do
a
say
fighter.
this makes people live longer.
It's
They do
it's so
say
true. It's so true. But she was also very strong and the fighter. But it just means that the journey was really difficult for us.
I'm
So
sorry.
after everybody unfortunately passed away, I do have my mom who's, young and hard and healthy right now. And my children are older. I was like, you know what? I want to write the book, something that I would have wished I had. Because when you are in that situation and you can't see forest for the trees, you're just so busy. And my book, it's all about kind of laying down all of the problems that people in Sanguine generation have, everything from something that's so up in your face, like let's say, time management, right? You now have to, schedule everything and take care of everything, but down to things that are hidden, like financial problems that are hidden and you can't really see them because some people, have to pick up a second job or actually leave their job. Some
Yeah.
people have to start paying the bill. Like it's a lot that's in your face, but also hidden. And of course, I
Mhm.
think what's the most important is that kind of spiritual and mental strain that these people have. So my book is to help them not only kind of understand the problems, how everything is connected, but more importantly, give them a lot of resources and ideas and assessments. And I really look at that as kind of toolbox. And it could be very very short. I'm working on it to be very kind of small, truly kind of toolbox with a lot of my personal anecdotal stories, which some are funny and hard, kind of because every time I tell a story to somebody, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you need to write a book." Because I think as immigrant and kind of English second language, I just have a lot of this funny or interesting stories. So yeah, I'm writing a book on Sandwich generation with tons of resources. And I will have a
Awesome.
chapter on AI. I will.
That's really great. And can you give us like kind of an idea of what about AI you're encouraging people to learn that would be helpful for them in this kind of scenario?
Yes. So um it's the chapter that I'm working on right now, so it's very
Oh, okay.
raw and not fully baked. It's really one of the last chapters in my book. But I
Mhm.
want people to understand, number one, I think that there are so much fear right now with AI, and people are scared to use it. And also what I see is people either trust it like totally like a Bible, like, oh, AI said that, that means it's correct. And the I think that's the third. And another third of population, and I mean, like, people that are not trained,
Sure.
they completely dismiss because they said if it's AI, then it means it's wrong. And I think the third of the third, and this is where I am, and this is what I want to teach them, is to learn how to use AI, but how to verify. And
Mhm.
I think it's amazing tool that people can use. Let's say, when your parent has dementia and you just don't know what to do, there's so many tools, and I'm going to use, certain prompts for people to say, this is the scenario, this is what's happening, what is the best answer based on evidence, what should I have done. And I can tell you that, for example, for my father, when he started getting lost in the car, and I was able to, because I'm a nurse practitioner, I was able to do a cognitive assessment. And actually, I didn't diagnose him, I'm not his primary care, but I knew that he had dementia based on all the answers. I took his keys away, but he was very upset and aggressive because they just don't understand why. So
Yeah.
we came up with a lie. And I said, oh, did you forget? Like, your key was broken and I gave it to car dealership. They're making a second key. So he was like, oh, okay. So kind of diffused the situation. So for a few days, that every time he would remember the car, my mom said, did you forgot the key is in the shop, because it's a special key. And so few few days later, he actually stopped asking about the key, but the car was outside of the window. So he kept saying, like, oh, my car is still here. And then when we took the car away, he was very angry and upset again. He was like, where's my car? And the same thing, it's white lie. We said, oh, you remember, like, something was wrong with the motor. We had to take it to, dealership. They're now fixing it. It'll be here soon. So instead of fighting with him and telling him he can't go, which my mom did for a few days, and it was a lot of fight and everything, she learned through me how to diffuse the situation. And within a few weeks, he forgot about the car. So we can
Right.
utilize AI for those type of scenarios and education. Also, a lot of things that are, could be automated with AI, like the appointments and making, spreadsheets. You just type in all the medication, ask AI to put it in Excel spreadsheet or whatever. So there's a lot of tools that I will be able to share with people who are not trained or aware of how to use AI, and tell them
Good.
that everything needs to be verified because AI does
Yeah,
hallucinate a lot.
it does.
Yeah.
I think I heard it helps to tell it to cite its sources so you can check it.
So just so you know, I
Yeah.
always do. And 9 out of 10 times when the source is cited, it's wrong.
Oh,
So
well,
you
that's
can't even
ridiculous.
trust that. Yes. So
Mhm.
what I do now is I ask for citations, or references, and when I go back and check and it's not here, you just need to keep asking AI and saying, this is wrong, provide me correct citation, provide me correct references. And sometimes after the fourth or fifth prompt, it actually, and every time, it's interesting that ChatGPT is becoming more and more polite with every iteration. Now it's literally, I feel like it's been programmed to almost be a person pleaser. So I have to be very aggressive in asking my ChatGPT for feedback, meaning that I'll say, for example, when I copy my chapter to ChatGPT and I said, you are the English professor and I'm your student who is misbehaving in class, provide a feedback that, because if I'll just say provide a feedback, it usually says, oh, Irina, this is so nice. It's heartwarming. It always gives me positive. And I'm like, no, I don't need, tell me what I can improve, what doesn't make sense. Um, and also interesting thing that I use Claude and I use ChatGPT, and I found that Claude is a lot more straightforward and
Mm,
truthful in the feedback. So
mm.
different AI platforms are built
Yeah,
differently.
yeah, they're not all created equal. They're very different,
Mhm.
and then you can, I need to learn more about this. I signed up to take a course on it,
Yeah.
how to build custom GPTs.
Hmm.
So then you have, parameters that it has to operate within. So I'm looking forward to learning more about that. Is that
Yeah.
something you've done?
I've done it all kind of on my own, because again, there's so much information out there. I have not taken a course on it per se, but definitely, I think if I had more time and maybe more money, I would take every course possible with AI.
Like, I mean, you're already at what, the advanced level of
Yeah,
ABAM?
yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
yeah.
Well, I think we have come to the time where I need to ask you my $1,000,000 question that I ask everyone who comes on the Nurse Rosa's Insights podcast. And that is, Irina, if you were given a grant for $1,000,000,000 to meet a need that you see in healthcare, how would you like to see it used strategically to have the most sustainable impact?
Rosa, I wish I had $1 billion answer. I think, and I listened to your podcast. I knew about the question. I thought about it a lot. And I think my answer changes almost day by day based on all the information that's coming.
And what you
There's,
see, right?
yeah, and there's so much right now. There's so much fear. There's so much wrong information. I'm personally struggling with understanding where I can find a true information or correct information because there's so much out there. I can tell you that a few weeks ago, I read the book No More Tears about Johnson and Johnson deception, and it broke my heart. Broke my heart. I highly
Oh, was this about the shampoo?
not no. Well, it was about everything that Johnson and Johnson deceived us in, and it started from the baby powder all the way up to the COVID vaccines.
Did they include the part about the baby shampoo and the tears?
There was no baby shampoo. It was the baby powder and all the cervical and uterine cancer for women that were using it, and babies who were dying because they inhaled the particles. There's a lot of asbestos and something else in it. I forgot the chemical that literally like people were just dying and dying, and they were not. They were kind of killing all the research that was being done to say like we should not use it. There was a chapter about Tylenol. I don't want to. I don't want to spoil
No.
it for people, but it was a lot, and I was like, oh my gosh, like a lot of things that I was taught and I believed in when I read it. It just it's heartbreaking. So where were I? I would love honestly. My answer today, and it's probably going to change tomorrow, is I would love to create some sort of consortium of non like bipartisan people in healthcare who it's not about left or right or green or red or anything. It's really just let's understand where we were when we were told a lie, and there's a lot of them, and let's not be afraid to call it because if it happened, it happened. We need to learn how to move forward and actually sort through all the evidence and the facts and come up with this hopefully truth, because you and I, we talked before, we know we have very little if any education about nutrition, about lifestyle, about prevention in healthcare. And right now everybody that's in that space, I always say they all have very different stories, but it all boils down to the same thing. I was a doctor, taking care of my patients, doing everything right, and I almost died. I was
Mm.
overweight. I couldn't sleep. I developed diabetes. I had anxiety, depression, and they all started looking into what is happening because they're taking everything. They're taking statins, their blood pressure medications, and nothing is working. And these are the guys who pioneered in functional medicine, precision medicine. Same with a lot of nurses and nurse practitioners. So I just think that we need to have like true information and say, some things were not, some things that we were taught, or maybe a lot of things that we were taught are not true and not correct. So maybe it's now time to make a change. and not stick to the old paradigm of, every time we said evidence based. Honestly, once you read this book, you'll realize that whoever produces the evidence and then that evidence become our base, it doesn't mean necessarily that is true.
Well, like, we do have a lot of evidence supporting the Mediterranean diet as the healthiest way to
Mhm.
eat for your brain, for your heart, really for your whole body. Obviously, if you're diabetic, there are some tweaks you need to make sure you don't have some sugar spikes. And not all fats are bad. There are good fats, which is included in
Mhm.
that. And that has been very well researched and studied from a variety of sources, not just like some company that's going to benefit if everybody eats well. In fact, a lot of the companies that are making a lot of money off of how we are eating are not fitting under that mold, right? Unfortunately, a lot of people, for whatever reason, hear all the noise about fad diets
Mhm.
or diets like the ketogenic diet that were designed to prevent
Yeah.
seizures in very specific people
Yep.
and lack the balance of just having a healthy, balanced diet.
Yeah.
But then we also lack access to those foods because that's not what was prioritized in the chain of
Yeah.
how we receive our food, right?
Yeah.
We need locally sourced food that's from nearby that will help it have better nutrients for us and help with allergies. So, I mean, I think you're right that nutrition is a huge factor in disease prevention. And I think we have the knowledge of what healthy food is. Um, I think having access to it in an affordable way is a challenge. So, if I could build on what you're saying and say the how of how we get there, I think investing in sustainable agriculture and access to food programs that teach people what to do with them. Because if you didn't grow up eating fruits and vegetables and lean meats, how are you going to know what to do with them if someone hands them to you, even if it's free?
Yeah.
You're not. So, one of the things that I've really loved is I have encountered people who do like cooking classes at food pantries. And I think that's so important because just giving people boxes of processed food that they can heat up is important, but also they need fresh things.
Yeah.
And those things they may not know what to do with. And so I think it's going to be a lot of cultural education around and treating food as medicine. Um, the things that have gone by the wayside, as far as, I mean, Lord knows I don't cook for my children too much, but at least I have a frame of reference to say these are the kind this recipe fits the mold, right? Let's work from this recipe, right?
Yeah.
I do think there's a way forward, and I've been really encouraged that I met Dr. Nate Woods from Yale.
Uh-huh.
He's the head of culinary medicine there, and he's really doing a lot of advocacy around food as medicine and
Yeah.
teaching nutrition in med school. So I'm encouraged by some steps in the right direction there too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I read, and I'm not sure if it's gonna come to fruition next year, but it sounds like Medicare is looking into some sort of benefit in terms of food for people. And oh my gosh, I do agree. What do they say? Apple a day keeps the doctor away. I was always laughing and I was like, where does that come from? And I was like, oh wait, like it's so much fiber and potassium and vitamin C. I was like, it has a lot of truth.
It does. And hydration too, right?
Hydration huge, yes. And yeah, I think bringing that like front and forward, because again, still right now in like nursing schools and medical schools, there's one class in nutrition and it's still, the old way, and we come out and we're not prepared to discuss truly disease. But she said, she asked me, she was like, help me, like, where do I find this information? I was never taught that. And so a lot of clinicians are in that boat when they're seeing 20, 25 patients a day, and then they run home and take care of their family, and they still want to sleep and go to gym. Like they just don't have the time to investigate and invest, right? So
Exactly.
it has to be brought back into the education, maybe in terms of CEUs, and just keep, and like again, like if Medicare will take that leap, and food as medicine is an amazing um, platform and movement, and I'm all for it. And I sign up to all the newsletters and I'm reading it. And
Yeah.
hopefully, again, I'm like you, I'm very optimistic, because we are not only that we're talking about it, there are movements, things are
Mhm.
happening. I'm so grateful that we are right now, we're at that space, because 10 years ago, you couldn't talk about it. I would,
Really?
yeah, I don't think I would have had guts to 10 years ago, maybe when I was practicing, to, stay here with you and talk about, Johnson and Johnson book, and maybe how, the food is not, we were not taught this. And so I just think there's a lot more, the movement is happening. So I'm very optimistic and hopeful that, we'll get to much better place very soon.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've learned too, like companies as well as people can learn from their mistakes. And now Johnson Johnson's very supportive of nurses and nursing leadership and nursing innovation. And they
Yeah.
even sponsored a lot of nurses to go to this health conference I just went to, spelled
Yeah.
HLTH, in Vegas, and where we had a nurse hackathon.
Yeah.
Um, they have really supported
Yeah.
nurses as well. And so, I think they are investing in that positive direction at least.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I think we have to acknowledge our history and then make steps towards the future that we want to build. So, I don't know. Maybe the question should be how can we use AI to democratize food as medicine?
I will work on that, Rosa. I will
And,
see what I can
and
do.
also make sure we don't have a water crisis from our usage of AI.
That, yeah. I know
Right?
every time I use ChatGPT, because right now that's the platform of my choice,
Mhm.
but I do feel it. Every time I ask a question, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is it gonna cost us?" Because it is very expensive to run, and not good for environment, so we all have to know that. I almost feel like I have to use AI to help me analyze what changes are being made with AI, because things are happening so fast and almost in real
Uh,
time. It's like you can't even keep up. It's
yeah,
becoming very difficult to like stay, at least keep your head above water, if you're really
yeah,
trying to learn that and be in the space.
right. I mean, that's why we get hyper specialized, right? Because we learn
That's
how
right.
much we know, and it's like, okay, let me focus on this area and try to do the most good I can in this area because we can't do it all. But I really love doing this podcast because I get to meet so many people like you who are doing what you can in your sphere to make a better future for us in our healthcare.
Thank
So,
you, Rosa.
and so thank you for sharing your optimism with us and your grit and determination. So, for everyone here, if they are wanting to reach out to you and look you up and find out about your book when it's coming out next year, do you want them to reach out to you on LinkedIn or do you want
Yeah,
to send them your
yeah.
website?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. And Rosa, thank you for what you do in just bringing like everything together, all your passions, nursing, Kentucky. I just, again, it did make me feel, like you said, a little bit more normal, meeting somebody that also has a lot of different passions and not necessarily boxed into one, which, and God bless people that are super good at one thing that they do. But I'm also happy that there are people like you and I exist who love everything, innovation and implementation and just new things. I am very active on LinkedIn. So if you just type Irina Koyfman, Koyfman, you'll find me, become friends with me. Also on Facebook. And I do have two groups, Nurses for AI and also the Caregiver Sandwich Generation. And I'll be very happy to help. And again, I'm writing this book to be a free resource. I'm not looking for sales. I just wanted to kind of, that's my way of giving back. So anybody that will email me and let me know, I will be happy to share the book as soon as it's published.
Yay!
Fingers
Well,
crossed.
it's going to be great. So, if you are listening to this and you have enjoyed it, please subscribe wherever you're listening, if that's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching on YouTube. And you can follow along on the Health Podcast Network. If you would like to reach out to me, I am also on LinkedIn, But you can also find me on all the other social media platforms at Nurse Rosa Speaks. You can also reach me about speaking engagements and follow information about my upcoming book that will be out in January. And that website is nurserosaspeaks.com. So I'd love to hear from you, especially if you know of someone else who has a $1 billion idea of how we can fix healthcare and make things more sustainable. So I will see you all in the next episode.
Bye, everybody.